Welcome, folks. Thanks very much for joining us this afternoon. Just going to let a few other folks in. It's great to see so many people join us. Can I encourage everyone who's just joining us to please put your cameras on. We love to see your faces. One of the things that we do in Vendorcom is make sure that we try and replicate as much as possible the uh, the atmosphere of a live session, in-person session. We want to keep it as interactive as possible. And so I hosted a session on just the other day, and we had a lot of it. It was a merchant-only PCI user group session, and yeah, there we had 25 or 30 people, all cameras on. It's great. We've hosted sessions with 150, 160 people with the cameras on, so that's all always very, very good to see people. It also gives our speakers the reassurance that you're actually listening to them rather than doing your emails. And I always know it's a temptation to be sitting here in the afternoon thinking I've got way too many emails. But our speakers are here with great experience and something very, very valuable to share to you. So just a few more folks joining us. And as those folks do join us, can I just draw your attention? Well, let me introduce myself because there's a few new faces here. I'm Paul Rogers. I chair Vendorcom. We just celebrated our 22nd anniversary just last week. Life in the payments world was very different back in 2003 when we were rolling out chip and pin in the UK. There were a number of other initiatives emerging across Europe. Yeah, certainly many of you looking at the young, fresh faces in front of me here won't have been around for some of those early days, but let me reassure you that there's been a lot of activity in the years since then. But actually, in terms of some of the key principles, frankly, not much has changed. We're still bringing lots of new things that have to be rolled out across a very, very complex merchant payments ecosystem. And that's why Vendorcom is just as vital today as it always has been. But it's lovely to see you here. Um, so welcome as folks come in, because there's still some other folks joining us. If I could ask you to have a quick look at the chat window. We use that quite a bit during our sessions. It's really there to make sure that you can interact with each other. So please use that as a way to introduce yourself. You can just as simple as just tell us where you're joining us from today, because we've got a pretty good international audience here. I think with some folks from continental Europe. I'm expecting one or two from North America as well. We will also be using the chat as the main point for any questions. Please feel free to add comments or questions as we go through the presentations. If you have a question that you want to address to a particular speaker, then just put that in the chat. You can either do that openly to everyone, or if you would like a question asked but don't want it attributed to you, then send that question or comment to me in a private message. So make sure it is a direct message just to me. And that way you'll save yourself any embarrassment of asking a tough, edgy question or asking maybe what some people might think is a pretty basic question. But let me reassure you, there aren't any basic questions. We want to get everything out in the open. I'll ask those questions or make those comments and not attribute it to the person who's asking them. That way we'll get everything surfaced during the session, and we'll give you the opportunity to get your questions answered. We'll also, when we get to the end of each presentation, so we're going to have Sam first, and then we'll move to Esperanza, and then Livia from Actuary.aero will join us and give her presentation. So after each broadly about 25-minute presentation, we'll take 5 minutes or so of questions directly related to that particular presentation. And then once we've heard all of the three presentations, we'll go into a more open roundtable discussion. And if any of you were here, and I see many faces who joined us for our session in June or July, you'll know that the Q&A session was well, pretty full on session. We pretty much ran out of time. So we're running this session as a 2 hour session. I hope most of you will be able to join, stay with us through to around 4 o'clock UK time, 5 o'clock continental European time. So thank you. We are recording this session. We will send you a link to that recording, but I'd also emphasize that it's a restricted recording, not to be sent beyond the current delegates, Vendorcom members, and so on. You'll also get access to a PDF version of the presentations, and as I suspect it might be the case, we might not get to answer all of the questions today. There'll be plenty of opportunity to follow up with you on answers, and we're very, very happy to introduce you to any of the speakers. And in fact, if you want to be introduced to each other, very, very happy to do that. Vendorcom is here to connect folks across the merchant payment scene. We've been doing that for 22 years. We're very proud of the record that we have in the industry, and we're delighted that you're able to join us today. So anybody that's just joined since I've been giving this introduction, please feel free, and I encourage you to turn your cameras on. As I said at the beginning, it is nice just to see that you're here fully engaged and with us in the room today. So think of those questions. Make sure it's going to be as interactive as possible. I'm sure you've all come here with things that you want to learn more about. We're very, very fortunate to have this great group of speakers. As I also often say, we've got great speakers, but it is actually the collective intelligence, skills, experience in the room here today that really matters. So, whilst of course we want to hear from our speakers, if you've got thoughts that develop the thoughts of our speakers, or even if they respectfully contradict the views of our speakers, we're very happy to hear them. And I'm sure that given that we're all in very varied situations. There's no one truth. There's a range of different things that apply to each of you in your own particular circumstances, whether you're an airline, hotel, or leisure organization, travel organization in other areas, or in the tourism sector. So, as I say, thank you very, very much for joining us. Without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to Sam from Hands In to give us the benefit of some of the things he is seeing as a relatively new organization within the sector. I spoke to Sam just a few weeks ago, and I've been just astounded with the insight and the energy and so on that they're bringing to the industry and the benefits that they're seeing that they can bring. So I hope you'll learn from what Sam has to say. So Sam, over to you. Thanks for joining us today.
Very kind words, Paul. Recognize many of you here in the Vendorcom session, so it's good to be seeing familiar faces, but also some new individuals. So let me just share my screen. Can you guys just tell me if that's all visible?
Yep, that's good. Thanks, Sam.
Great. So for those that don't know me, my name is Samuel Flynn. I'm the co-founder and chief exec here at Hands In. And what we focus on as a business is split payment, specifically split payment for the travel industry, which is why I've been kindly invited to talk to airlines, the rest of travel and leisure today. And with split payments, we're looking at specifically the use case around lost transactions from insufficient funds and limits exceeded specifically on card. That is the moat behind our business. But I suppose why should you, be quiet for 15 minutes and listen to me? So just a bit of backstory about myself and the company. I've always been an entrepreneur set up my first real business at 19, sold it that same year. Whilst at university, had a great fun time with the amount of money that we made, but I also used parts of the money to start a new business, which is the company I'm working on today. We've raised over 1 million sterling to date with funding from the likes of executives at Go, Cardless, WorldPay, and Elevon. In our 3-year tenure, we've been blessed to partner with some leading payment organizations, many of which you will probably recognize, checkout.com, SellPoint Digital within the travel space, eCompay. But we mainly launched our business, for those that know, around a case study with Air Europa. But this has led us to sign other businesses such as Sports Event 365 in the ticketing sector, a very interesting new use case that was announced just a few days ago with Buddy Smugglers, and we also built relationships with the likes of Trust My Travel too. And the success of our story has led us to win a number of different awards. I'm sure many of you here are aware of the Aviation Festival or Travolution. We've been blessed to win Startup of the Year there several times. So all of this to say, hopefully today when it comes to split payments, you guys are in good hands. Quote, you got your hands in with me. Right. So when we're talking about split payments, though, something that I've learned over the last 3 years of building this business is that you guys seem to define this differently to the way I define it. Okay. So what I thought for this presentation, what would be good is I take a source directly from a leading payment institution such as Go Cardless, and this definition matches the way that we are defining split payments at Hands In. And as it says here on the screen, this is where a customer or customers use more than one payment method or source to settle a transaction. What we are not, I want to be clear, is a split payment solution that maybe is splitting payments into different sub accounts. That's not what we're focused on. We're focused on driving the customer experience and incremental revenue for the retailer. But how do we do that? Now, you may remember on the first part of the slide, I mentioned around this issue of insufficient funds. So in layman terms, what that is, the customer heads to checkout or any payment page, tries to pay, but the bank or acquirer rejects it because the customer doesn't have enough money. We see this with card very often, and especially in travel because of the high basket value, and card is still king. When we talk to businesses in travel and those that we work with, card penetration rates are always upwards of 70%. So Esperanza will be very, very happy with that. Now, the average rate that we see from businesses that we've done study with or that we work with in terms of what they're losing from insufficient funds directly at checkout creeps up towards the 5% on card sales. Now, some of you must be thinking, well, hold on a minute, hold on a minute. Some of those are going to be soft declines. Some of them are going to come back and repurchase. And you're absolutely right. From what we see is roughly around 50% of soft declines typically convert into a true hard decline. And for those that don't know, that's just where a payment will simply never be placed and they do not come back and complete that purchase. So to give travel businesses here today and some payment providers, just like a very high level business case, imagine you've got a vendor doing 100 million a month in online sales, and that hard decline bounce of that average 5%, let's say they're losing 2.5% from hard declines due to insufficient funds and limits exceeded. So that's a whopping 2.5 million per month and 30 million per year, right? So what may seem quite a single digit, let's say small issue, you can see how this can compound into something quite big. And as this image here from ChatGPT, thank you, illustrates here on the screen, we feel like travel businesses are literally just leaving money on the table. And then I suppose the question then becomes, what if there are services out there that can help travel businesses rescue maybe 5-10% of that number? And this is where our business started. So you'll see a later product as a part of this presentation that I initially went to Air Europa and the payments team and pitched. And they said to me, look, Sam, and you'll see it in a second, but what your original proposition was focused on was effectively travelers struggling with affordability at the checkout and a very specific type of traveler. What we're seeing though is that the majority of travelers, not necessarily which I was mainly focused on, which was the group's angle, like it could be a corporate customer. It could be just an individual that's maybe a dad who's purchasing a family trip on behalf of their whole family, right? That they were seeing this issue of kickbacks due to insufficient funds on card and also credit. So what we devised with them, where we were already splitting payments with multiple people at this point, They were like, well, look, well, why can't you do that for just a single person? And we labeled this product the multi-card product. So what this does is this allows a traveler to have the ability to split a transaction. This is a single traveler, by the way, across multiple cards. So use cases of where this can be prominent is, let's just say Esperanza right now is literally in Gatwick Airport for those that don't know. And let's say MasterCard give her a corporate limit of, I don't know, $500. But Esperanza's only traveling to Mallorca today. But let's just create a hypothetical example that she wants to go business with BA directly to Mallorca, but she's using part of her corporate card that she gets from Mastercard and another amount of her personal card versus just going through the traditional upgrade process. We see this use case with Air Europa all the time. And then going back to the issue of insufficient funds, if a customer has insufficient fund on one card because they can typically only complete a card payment with just one at a time, by applying multiple, you're able to unlock some of that incremental revenue. And then there's also some other use cases for airlines in particular, where you can combine loyalty points and card payments, and in this case, multiple card payments. So what I am showing you here on the screen is a live payment from Air Europa's checkout page. So you can see where it says pay with multiple cards. This is where this has been integrated. And what we've done is we've popped our SDK that you can see here on the screen into Air Europa's hosted page. You'll see there that the customer gets the ability to select the number of cards that they want to pay with and enter in each amount, in which we will tokenize the card fields for a third party provider, allow the customer to pre-authorize this transaction. So the first part, and then they'll simply move over to the next, which you'll see in just a second, and just go through that exact same process, and they'll complete the payment. Now, for Air Europa, we've set a max limit to 3 cards, but if this needed to be extended, it could, or if it needs to be shortened, it also could as well. And the beauty behind our product is that we're only sending Air Europa's apologies, a webhook of a successful payment once 2 of the card payments have been successfully authorized with the acquirer. Hands-in takes care of the UI and the routing and the orchestration of that and parts of the reconciliation for split payment. That's where we've been able to build our edge case in this business. But one thing that was really interesting insight that come from our launch of Air Europa is that 60% of the traffic that we were getting on this product from Air Europa came from a decline on another method. So in layman terms, imagine a customer tries to pay with a single credit card, it fails. 60% of the time, they were coming and selecting us to try and effectively retry that payment when it was on insufficient funds. So when we were working with Air Europa in the early days, we said, well, what happens to the remaining 40%? And they didn't really have an answer to this question. So we thought, okay, why don't we try and extend out this product and service? And we built a little page that would listen to the decline codes on insufficient funds and limits exceeded. And we've now also extended this to do not honor or reason not specified transactions, because a large propensity of what we've seen of those transactions can typically be due to insufficient funds. And all this pop-up does is very much like a retry product, where you'll get the ability to retry a card payment and maybe get 3 attempts and then the transaction abandons forever. There's just a little button now, as you can see here on the screen, that will redirect them to the multi-card solution to complete a successful transaction. And overall, with the 2 solutions or edge cases combined, since launching these products with Air Europa in August of 2024 to June 2025, so this is the data here that you're seeing on the screen in the case study, we're proud to say we've recovered over $11.5 million in insufficient fund declines. Our success rate on our transactions is 95% once we get the first authorization through. Average time to pay is just under 6 minutes. This also does include 3DS, and some of you might be looking at going, oh, quite high. Apple Pay, Google Pay is maybe under a minute in terms of time to complete a transaction. But you've got to think about the edge case, I'll not say edge case, but the use case of what this provides, right? And that's the incremental benefit that you are also seeing here on the screen. And interestingly, our AOV with this product is 5 times higher than a single credit card transaction. And that's for obvious reasons, right? This is not rocket science. You are applying multiple forms of card, or in some cases, payment methods. That's obviously going to drive purchase value. Now, this is the second part of my presentation, and this is what I mentioned and alluded to before, where the business first started. Okay. Many of you have heard me tell this story a million and one times, and apologies to bore you all again. But it birthed out from a genuine user problem. My generation, Gen Z, so I'm 25, guys. And in our generation, we love to travel. I would say the millennial generation maybe likes to be in the pubs, go out, restaurants and stuff like that. I really think Gen Z, with their spare disposable income, they're just focused on where's the next flight, right? And I'm sure many of you, have children or work with Gen Zs. They're all like that. And I was no different. But what I found very, let's say, frustrating from a user experience point of view, that this image here on the screen will hopefully articulate, that when I'm booking a trip with my friends, we can all sit down and go, right, we're going to Croatia. Great. We can get on that flight and we can sit together, but for some reason, for the same purchase that we've just made, we can't split the payment. And I was like, at my young age, like, what the hell, guys? The travel industry can do better than this. And there wasn't really an alternative to this at the time. Obviously, you've got challenger banks like Revolut, Monzo here in the UK, and Starling Bank as well, that have got great split bill features. But all of this is post-transaction, right? None of this deals with the issue of a young customer like myself at the time, that may be a student, maybe in an overdraft, doesn't have access to a credit card, and maybe can't lean on bank of mum and dad to make a big group purchase, right? This is where this niche problem effectively sits. And then when I was thinking about doing something about this as a founder, what existing travel businesses were doing when it comes to group payments, I saw it really only catered towards larger pack sizes. There was this very labor intensive, like, manual process, and you can see this snapshot here on a screen, where you might have to involve a dedicated call agent. You're filling out a form, all of this stuff. Look, I'm sure you guys all, again, are familiar with the Gen Z generation. Our attention spans wear very thin, unfortunately. Blame TikTok and Instagram Reels. But there must be a more, let's say, digitally sexy way to do this. And this is what I came to Yago and Air Europa about. I said, look, what I want to do is create the ability, not just for larger pack sizes, okay? So for things like sports teams, schools, student groups, but it might just be, let's say, me, Esperanza, and Paul decide to go to Mallorca and just want to split that transaction. Like, why can't we do that? Why can't Esperanza just send me a link, and then we all just join and we just pay in real time for the same flight that we're boarding and going away together? It just seemed barbaric to me. And this is what we've created. So this is again on Air Europa's checkout page. You can see the button down there. This is Air Europa's choosing. Our service is typically white labeled, so this is what they've decided to label the button. And this is what the perspective of someone like me, the lead booker, someone who would organize the group transaction, would go through. You'll see there at the top, the URL has changed. So I just quickly want to pause here, because with our integration options with Hands In, it can be this embedded iframe option that you saw with a multi-card, but then it can also be this redirect. And I wanted to show you the two demonstrations today to show you the versatility. Some vendors might look at this and say, right, the redirect works better for us. It's much more lightweight. The SDK is much more better from a customer experience perspective. And that's true. Now, just on this image here, what you're seeing is that once they click the group payment button, they'll be redirected to our page, and they'll be required the lead booker to add their card details and pre-authorize their share. Now, we learned that this is the best way to convert a group, because you're basically getting them to buy in. They're not being charged at this point. They're only charged once all group members join and contribute their payment. You also see there at the top, it says 54 minutes, just under an hour. So when we work with travel businesses, we do ask them, when it comes to group payments, to be flexible with the ticketing windows that they offer to customers. Look, it's not rocket science. If you're involving multiple people, you can't expect them to all, complete a payment within 15 minutes of one another. The more flexible you can be, the better in terms of conversion. I'll just quickly skip back here, because I want to make sure that I talk through the flow properly. You'll see the lead booker authorizes their share. They're now adding another group member. As you can see here, we've got lots of different ways of which a link can be shared, because that's typically what we do when the payment's split. This can be done through WhatsApp. You'll see their QR code, email, text message. And guys, what's good with this is we've created the functionality to allow vendors to build sort of an off-the-shelf solution that works specifically for their customers and lots of different edge cases. Something we learned with Air Europa, because they're selling tickets and they're creating itineraries with P&R, is that we got the customer data and the itinerary data just to be fielded straight into the group payment UI. So it just allows the passengers to seamlessly split everything, and including any ancillaries that they add as well. So then this member will join, that you can see here, and then they'll join as this person. They'll add their email and their phone number. And I think this is a really important point, and you'll see this later in the case study on this solution. Most vendors are not capturing secondary passenger data or secondary traveler data. They're just doing on a single card holder. With our solution, you get that access and the benefit of getting access to these new data profiles. And this is the result. So this is a 12-month case study of Air Europa. We've generated $3 million in incremental sales. Now, the success rate, understandably, is lower than the multi-card product. Why? Because you're dealing with multiple people, not just one. The average time to pay is around 20 minutes. Average order value for these transactions is relatively high, around $2,000, and 8 times higher than a single credit card payment. And going on that point around data profiles, we've generated over 50,000 new data profiles for Air Europa that we've tokenized within their system, and they're now using this to, we call it, remarket to lookalike profiles. So if me, Esperanza, and Paul go on a group trip and we like to go to Croatia, as an example, next time maybe certain inventory becomes available. And this is not just for airlines, this can be for lots of other different businesses and use cases, maybe festivals, tickets, and stuff like that. You can use this subsection of data to say to these customers, hey, look, we got this new offer on. Do you think you could be interested on this? And that we've seen that work really, really well for them. But it doesn't just end here. The success of our case study of Air Europa, very recently, we're going to be working next year with a tier one airline in the Middle East. That's just happened as of literally this week, all confirmed. We expect to sign up with at least, I think, 3 more carriers by the end of this year. We've had an RFP accepted with a tier one OTA in Europe. So lots of exciting things going on in the hands-in camp, but we're not the only ones talking about split payments. I'm not sure if any of you got the opportunity to watch the recent IATA conference, where it was sort of payments in the boardroom. And we got people like the CRO there of Finnair, and I know Gilberto is also on this call. So that's actually great timing. Hello, Gilberto. So what Christine was talking about was exactly what you just saw there on the earlier slide, around people want the ability to split the cost of their trip in the same way they do a restaurant bill. Duh. And then same with Tamer, VP at Lufthansa Group, was also talking about this same thing, but in relation to a wedding trip. And I think this is really exciting, especially for me. Obviously, bit biased, but it's nice to see the boardroom really, shedding light on this new innovation. And I think it's something that should have been done a while ago. I guess me and my team are just the people to do it. But outside of our success and what we're seeing from the boardroom, we've seen Ryanair do something with pack sizes 9+. We've seen South African Airlines launch a split payment offering, and Qantas have done like a pay per person offering. So this is really, really exciting. I would say where Hands In sits is that if you're an airline that maybe we work with one of your orchestration partners or your gateways, or you don't have the time or effort or development resource to do this yourself, you want specialist insights into insufficient funds, the unique data profiles, and you just want a full service package, and you want to trust someone who's already been out there and done it, and give them a call if anything goes wrong, we're your guy. That's where we sit. Sales pitch over. What I would say now, as my leaving remarks, I'm sure I'm coming up on time. Uh, Please scan the QR code here if you want to download the case study of Air Europa. There's a lot more in there than what I've mentioned just here. And hopefully this will be a unique insight for you guys. But the business case, if you're thinking about split payments, is something to potentially do. As you can see with a group product, it will be something that will generate millions in new sales, because you've basically completely created a brand new way for them to pay at your checkout page. And with our multi-card and, let's say, decline recovery solution, return back millions of transactions that were previously lost to you. Okay. So hopefully this has been insightful and enjoyable. Now look forward to any of your questions.
Great. Thanks very much, Sam. Thank you for that. It's really good to see that covered. I probably should have said right at the beginning of this session that all three presentations today are as a direct result of topics that we talked about in our 5th of June session. And so that definitely wasn't the sales pitch. Sammy did a great job on that in terms of underpinning the solution, making it relevant, and I'm sure lots of people will see the relevance of it. But I wanted to really emphasize that this is speaking directly to specific issues that
Yeah.
many of our members are raising with me every day when I speak to them. Some of our larger airline travel tourism members on the merchant side have um, not just multiple people paying, but an extended payment period where there's the initial period, the initial payment might need to be taken on multiple cards. A follow-up payment might need to be taken as we get closer to travel time and so on. And so anything that's going to allow the merchant to give options as and when those payments are taken is very, very worthwhile. Now we've got some time. Really keen to go out for any questions. If anyone wants to ask a question of Sam, then please either put it in the chat or feel free to unmute yourself or raise your hand. If you want to raise your hand, just for those of you that aren't familiar, you can go to the React button at the bottom of the screen and select the raise hand option. That'll just give me an option to see you wanting to come in. Any questions for Sam on that in terms of yeah, so Gilberto, thank you for your question. How do you handle partial refunds, Sam? Is the merchant responsible to say how much gets refunded to each card? And we'll deal with that one first, and then we'll go on to the second question.
Yeah. So I should actually have a slide in there for this. Let me just. Okay. So yeah, I can answer the refund question. So um Gilberto can hopefully you guys can see this. So
Yeah.
this is a test payment with Air Europa in our system. So you'll see there's a let's just focus on the multi-card, but the logic works all the same way. You've got a multi-card reference ID where our system is sort of reconciling these two payments together. You'll see an individual ID here where then the payment is split and you're able to refund each card. If you wanted to click this button here and refund all of the cards at once, you have the ability to do so. But to your point of partial refunds, if you click this button here, it will load up another pop-up and you could do a partial refund on an individual card directly. So we've tried to build out logic to cover every refund use case, and it doesn't have to be that you have to go into the hands-in portal to initiate refunds. You can also utilize the logic provided and embed this in-house. So this is what Aeropa do in terms of generating refunds. We're just showing you the UI side, but they have this all triggered on the back end with them. And then I believe I just want to check the chat. The second question was around payment methods. So
Yeah.
yes, we are expanding this just outside of card. When we integrate with an airline, depending on who their acquirers are and their setup, pretty much all of the card types we can support. Um, in terms of other forms of payment, Apple Pay, Google Pay, I don't know why that image is not showing there, but we can do wallet payments as well. That's really good with Air Europa because what we're seeing is like a link is sent for the group product into a WhatsApp chat, and they're just clicking the link and they're just doing their Apple Pay and just getting on with their day. That's where our product is most successful. PayPal, Alipay, and we can also support the BNPLs. What we cannot support because we are doing the pre-auth and capturing later is open banking or account to account, unfortunately, or direct debit. And then things like crypto, I'm not sure if many airlines are even that interested in crypto anymore, or travel businesses, but that's where we don't support.
Great, thanks for that, Sam. We've got a comment, a very similar comment question that just come in from Clive. There must be other use cases. Like I certainly see, Sam, and when we've spoken in the past, things like your multi-card retry. When I
Yeah,
look at the absolute hell that many merchants are going through with strong customer authentication, and they just the messaging coming back may not be clear as to why a
mm,
payment has been declined. So if you can actually give better messaging for a start is a really good thing. If you
yeah,
can then go, oh, rather than it, oh, let's back out of that transaction. Let's go back and put more card information in, just randomly try something else. If that's just part of a checkout process, it just gives the customer a lot more reassurance. So like I'd be loving to see this going into lots of other merchant sectors, perhaps some high value
yeah,
repeat
exactly that.
purchase,
Yeah.
maybe other extended purchase, e-commerce areas. So yeah, anything else you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, sure. So, travel is definitely the home of split payments, I would say, just because there's the most evidence and data that there are kickbacks due to insufficient funds and limits exceeded on card, and the numbers seems to be pretty high. But other areas of travel, that encompasses airlines, hotels, OTAs, but then we can also look at the ticketing sector, and the ticketing works much like airlines in the sense of the tickets have to be bought and issued, except airlines, if you on their direct channel, will own that inventory themselves. But Sports Events 365, as an example, their kickback on insufficient funds for card sales was in the double digits, not single digits, which was really surprising to me. And we're just in the final processes of launching these guys. We're going to use them, a bit like what we've done with the Air Europa case study, is to basically platform ourselves into that sector, and we're having some really exciting conversations. The group product has understandably a much more use cases beyond just travel. So budgie smugglers. I would encourage everyone to just quickly go onto Google and just quickly type in budgie smugglers, and you go, oh right, yeah, there really is a very different use case. For those that don't know what it is, just Google it, and it's nothing crazy or anything like that, but it'll make you chuckle. Um, and then I think for the multi-car product, luxury retail would be a really good one, and luxury goods. I've always thought I just had this event happen to me recently, furnishing my property and buying sofas and all that stuff that you have to do as a first time buyer. My credit limit with American Express, despite everything that's happened in my life, is still only 2,500. So if I'm buying a sofa for 5 grand, I have to have that money on hand. And there's opportunity cost of capital out there, right? I could, maybe invest that spare 2,500 or do whatever with it. So if I had the ability to apply 2 car payments and get my reward points, great, right? I'm hitting my Amex targets. So I think there's so many. But the benefit of working with great partners is that they educate you on the types of use cases that you should be thinking about. So we're blessed to work with many great partners here on the screen, and they're constantly expanding that out. So I'm sure there'll be many more use cases that we're not even really aware of. It could even be in like education, that maybe we could start to tackle. But I always think, and my investors and advisors would advise me, is you want to crawl, walk, run. We want to, let's say, crawl our way into the travel industry, start to scale it up, kill one segment, then move on to another, versus spreading ourselves too thin, and jumping the gun a little bit with delving into other sectors that we don't have as much stickiness with yet. But it's still something that's on the cards for us for sure.
Great. Well, Sam, just before we move on, I'll just go to Steve Waldron. Steve, good to see you. Yeah, fire away with your question. You're muted at the moment.
It's this thing headset.
Yeah,
Yeah.
got you.
Um, you mentioned as part of the transaction chain of the product the use of pre-auth.
Yeah.
Um, that traditionally has a problem, certainly in the hotel sector, in terms of um, the messaging that the customer receives, I mean, you could go to the petrol pump case as well. People don't realise that the pre-auth is there, and if they get any messaging, they don't understand how pre-auth works, and does it come through on the customer's phone like a pre-auth and then a completion, and they think, oh, we've got two transactions here, they charged me twice? Have you had any issues around that sort of area?
Not really, and I'd answer that question by just quickly showing the multi-card product. So once it plays, you'll see, if I just quickly try to skip ahead to save time. In this UI, you'll see, let me just move it ahead. So look, they're selecting a number of cards. They configure the amount they want to pay on one card, and then they're about to pay. Now, when they pay and the pre-auth is successful, you'll see this will highlight green and tick, right? So it's signifying to the user that this pre-auth has been successful.
Yeah, but they don't know it's a pre-auth. That's the point. They think they've been charged.
No, that's not true. Because if I quickly go to our group product as an example, when I move this ahead, so you'll see when they add their card details, see that there? You'll only be charged when everyone else has contributed their part of the payment.
All right.
They're
Okay.
going into the transaction, understanding it, and then when we're capturing the data profile, we're also sending them information to say, right, Clive has just completed a payment, John's done his payment, and it's all happening in real time.
Yeah.
With the multi-card product, it's there on screen, and we also present this exact same information.
Okay, I understand that.
Great.
And this just for my own technical information.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware that and I should be, that the pre-auth is that 3DS? Does the 3DS happen at that stage
Yes,
in
it
terms of
does.
customer authentication? Yeah, I assume that was the case, but I've actually never checked that. It's a small thing, I know, but
Yeah,
no, that's helpful. Thank you, Sam.
no
Great.
problem.
Thanks, Steve. Really appreciate that. And Sam, thank you very much. That's great. I know you'll be able to stay with us for a good bit of the rest of the day. So if anybody's got any other questions, then I'm going to hand over to Esperanza. Esperanza, thank you